They told you Vietnam would be over by Christmas. The newspapers said it, the politicians said it, even the officers at the induction center repeated it, as if they were reassuring themselves. You wanted to believe them. It sounded manageable, a quick campaign, a few months overseas, and then back home in time for snow, for family, for everything that still felt normal. But the letter in your hand doesn't care about promises. It's dated spring 1966, and it orders you to report for active duty in 30 days. You're 19, working part-time at a gas station, saving for your first car. The war has been background noise, black and white footage on television, names of faraway provinces you can't pronounce. Now it's personal. Now it's your name typed in black ink beneath the words Selective Service System. Your mother stares at the envelope as if it might disappear if she looks long enough. Your father says little. He fought in Korea and knows what silence covers. You spend those 30 days in limbo. Friends throw a small farewell party. Your girlfriend makes you promise to write every day. She says she'll wait, and you want to believe her. But already, the air feels different, like everything around you is temporary. You notice small things, the sound of the screen door closing, the smell of cut grass, the way the sunlight hits your street in the evening. You try to memorize it all, as if memory could protect you. When the day comes, you board a bus with other boys your age. Some crack jokes, others stare straight ahead. The engine starts, and your hometown shrinks in the rear window. Training camp erases who you were. Hair gone, name replaced by a number, individuality stripped until only obedience remains. Drill sergeants shout until your mind learns to react before it thinks. The rifle becomes an extension of your hands, the uniform your second skin. You learn to run until your lungs burn, to shoot without hesitation, to sleep through noise. They promise you'll be home by Christmas. You stop asking which Christmas they mean. You step off the transport plane into a wall of heat that feels alive. It wraps around you, clings to your skin, fills your lungs. The air smells of jet fuel, mud, and something else you can't name, something burnt and ancient. Soldiers are moving in every direction, some boarding planes home, others, like you, just arriving. The men heading home look older than their age, eyes hollow, faces drawn tight. You wonder if you'll look like that when your turn comes. An officer barks orders, shuffling you into a line. You're assigned to the 25th Infantry Division, Tropic Lightning. You don't know much about it except what the patch looks like. The first briefing is short and blunt. This isn't a movie, this isn't about medals, and this isn't over by Christmas. You'll patrol the jungle, guard convoys, and survive if you can. The veteran beside you smirks when the lieutenant says survive. He's been here 9 months. You notice his hands shake when he lights a cigarette. The first helicopter ride feels unreal. The jungle below looks endless, an ocean of green. The door gunner leans out, scanning the trees like he's expecting ghosts. The pilot shouts over the engine, but you can't make out the words. When the chopper drops into the landing zone, your heart slams so hard you feel it in your throat. The ground is red mud. The humidity turns every breath into work. The squad leader tells you to grab your gear and keep your head low. The first days blur together. Patrol, eat, patrol again. You don't see the enemy. You just hear them. Shots echo in the distance. Once, you find a trail of blood that vanishes into the trees. Every sound feels dangerous. The rustle of leaves, a snapped twig, a bird's sudden flight. You start to realize this isn't a place where battles happen. It's a place where the jungle itself decides who stays alive. At night, you lie awake listening to insects scream and men whisper. Someone says the brass promised victory by Christmas. Nobody answers. You think about home, snow, lights, your mother's voice, and wonder if they'll even remember this war by then. Your training kicks in the first time it happens. One moment, you're walking point on a narrow trail. The next, the jungle explodes. The noise is deafening, rifles, shouting, the hollow thump of grenades. You drop to the ground, return fire, heart pounding so hard you can barely breathe. You can't see the enemy, only flashes between the trees. It lasts maybe 2 minutes, maybe less, but it feels endless. When it's over, your hands shake so badly you almost drop your rifle. A kid from Ohio, Jenkins, took a round through the shoulder. The medic works fast, blood dark against the mud. Nobody talks about fear. Everyone feels it. Back at base, the lieutenant writes the report, enemy contact, light resistance. You reread the line and think about the screaming, the smell of blood, the sight of Jenkins trembling on the stretcher. Light resistance. That night, you lie in your bunk, staring at the ceiling fan. You hear every sound, the hum of mosquitoes, the thud of distant artillery, the quiet breathing of the man in the cot beside you. You close your eyes and see muzzle flashes in the dark. The weeks start to blend. You go on patrol, you come back, you go again. Sometimes you walk 10 miles and never see anything but jungle. Other times, the world erupts without warning. You stop counting days because they don't mean anything anymore. The guys start a calendar on the wall, just scratch marks for each sunrise. Someone jokes that you'll be home by Christmas, then New Year, then maybe Easter. Nobody laughs for long. Mail becomes the lifeline. A letter from home feels like proof that the world still exists. Your mom writes about weather, neighbors, your brother's baseball games. Your girlfriend's letters are shorter now, sometimes late. You tell yourself it's just the mail system. Deep down, you know better. The war isn't ending soon, and neither are you. You've stopped waiting for good news. Out here, good news is making it through the night. You clean your rifle, count your ammo, and wonder how many more months until December feels like just another day in the jungle. By month 6, the days have lost all meaning. The monsoon season turns everything into mud. Your boots, your rations, your thoughts. You stop trying to stay dry because it's impossible. The rain becomes a part of you, constant and heavy, washing over faces that barely change expression anymore. You've learned to move silently, to recognize the difference between a bird call and a signal. You've learned to sense danger without knowing why. New guys arrive, fresh from training. They remind you of yourself 6 months ago, clean gear, nervous smiles, still believing the talk about Christmas. You see how they look at you, at the scars on your arms, at the way you scan the tree even when you're supposed to rest. You become what you once feared, the veteran who doesn't flinch, who doesn't talk much, who has already buried too many names. When you hand the new recruits extra water and a warning about leeches, you catch your reflection in a puddle and almost don't recognize it. There are moments of quiet that feel unreal. You sit in the mud, cleaning your weapon, listening to distant thunder. Someone hums softly. Another man writes a letter. For a few minutes, it almost feels peaceful. Then a radio crackles, orders come through, and you're moving again. The jungle closes in like it's swallowing you. You think about home, your mother setting the table, your father pretending not to worry, the smell of pine from the Christmas tree that won't have your name beneath it this year. The patrols get longer. The ambushes come faster. Each time, it's harder to remember why you're here. Officially, you're fighting communism. Unofficially, you're fighting to see the next sunrise. When you do sleep, your dreams are loud, screaming, gunfire, faces without names. Sometimes you wake up and forget where you are. Sometimes you wish you could. Christmas comes and goes with no celebration, just another damp morning, another briefing, another promise that it'll all be over soon. The jungle doesn't care what day it is. The war doesn't pause for holidays. You stop believing in dates altogether that be summer. You stop thinking about homecoming. The only countdown that matters is how many men are left in your platoon. The radio plays static more often than music, and you've learned to tell the difference between outgoing artillery and incoming mortars by sound alone. When the explosions are close, you flatten yourself into the earth, gripping your rifle so tight your knuckles ache. After each blast, you check yourself, still breathing, still whole. Survival has become a habit. New missions keep coming. Search and destroy, they call it. You move through villages that barely exist anymore. Huts scorched, fields empty. Children stare from doorways. You can't tell if they're scared or just tired. Sometimes you hand them rations. Sometimes they run away. You start to realize there's no front line here, only zones of uncertainty. The jungle hides everything, the enemy, the danger, even your own fear. One day, A helicopter goes down 2 clicks from your position. You're sent to secure the crash. The wreckage is still smoking when you arrive. The pilot didn't make it. Nobody says a word. You just stand there, staring at twisted metal half buried in mud, thinking about how easy it is to vanish in this place. The report will reduce it to one line: aircraft lost to ground fire. You know it's more than that. It's a man who thought he'd be home by Christmas, now gone without a trace. That night, someone starts talking about the date, how it's almost December again. It's been nearly a year since you left. The jungle hasn't changed, and neither have the promises. You wonder if the people back home still say the war will end soon, if they still use words like progress and peace talks. Out here, none of that matters. Progress is a hot meal and 8 hours without contact. Peace is silence long enough to fall asleep. The rain keeps falling, washing over your boots, over the dog tags resting against your chest. You whisper a name you don't want to forget and close your eyes, pretending you can still feel the cold of a winter that's a world away. When your tour finally ends, there's no ceremony, no grand farewell. Just a clipboard with your name on it and a flight manifest home. You board the plane with men who don't talk much anymore. Some stare out the window. Some sleep with helmets on their laps. As the aircraft lifts off, the jungle shrinks beneath you, a blur of green fading into cloud. You tell yourself you'll never see it again, but you know that isn't true. It's burned into you now, the smell, the sound, the weight of every day that didn't end by Christmas. Landing in California should feel like freedom, but it doesn't. Protesters line the fences at the airport, shouting words you can't believe are meant for you. Murderer, baby killer. You look at your uniform and suddenly feel ashamed of surviving. Inside the terminal, a few people clap half-heartedly before walking away. Nobody wants to hear about Vietnam anymore. They just want it over. You realize they've been saying that for years. Home looks different too. Your parents try to smile through tears. Your mother hugs you longer than she ever has. Your father shakes your hand like you're someone he barely knows. Friends talk about college, jobs, weddings. You nod and pretend to listen, but your mind keeps drifting back to the jungle. Loud noises make you flinch. The smell of gasoline reminds you of napalm. At night, you wake up drenched in sweat, convinced you're still under fire. The war might have ended on paper, but not in your head. You start to understand what the veterans before you meant when they said no one really comes home. The letters you saved, the photographs you folded into your pocket, they feel like relics from another lifetime. The world moved on without you. The promises about Christmas, about peace, about ending soon, they were just words to make the waiting easier. You stare out the window one evening as snow begins to fall, soft and silent, so different from the rain of Vietnam. For a moment, you almost believe you're back where you started. But deep down, you know the truth. Part of you never left that place. And part of that place will never leave you.